Hi, this is Abul Hussain coming to you direct from London, the United Kingdom, and welcome to another episode of the SMMA Mastermind podcast, where we talk about how you can start or scale your digital marketing agency. And we also bring on subject matter experts to help upskill us. Now, if you are watching this interview outside of our Facebook group, make sure to find the link above or below this video or go to smmamastermind.com, especially if you're in the agency community and you want to scale your business this year. Now, with that out of the way, I have a very special guest joining me. He's from the UK, which makes him even more special because most of my guests are from North America. His name is Josh Gibbons, a 19-year-old entrepreneur. I don't think I can call him branding expert just yet, but he is en route to being a branding expert. And we are going to talk anything and everything about branding for your coaching, your consulting, for your expert business. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. Now, for the people who might not know who you are, because I've seen your ads on the Facebook.
That's fun. Yeah.
How about a little bit of an introduction and what I suppose, how did you get into this branding space and what do you do for your clients?
100%. Yeah. So the short story is I used to be an obsessed gamer, as any kid is. So around the age of about 12 or 13, I got into my own gaming YouTube channel. And I looked up to a lot of these big companies or teams like FaZe Clan, people like that. And so as I was getting into my gaming YouTube channel, like any YouTuber does, I was like, well, these accounts have thumbnails and they have banners. So I guess I need that for my channel, right? And I was like, well, I'm not paying anyone for it, so I need to figure this out. So I went and found a cracked version of Photoshop, and
we've all been there.
yeah, literally, I didn't know what else to do. I was way too young to know any better. Went to YouTube, found some tutorials, and just started designing my own gaming YouTube channel up. And so from that really kicked things off. Little did I know what it would turn out to be. But essentially at the time, sorry, I just had a tab come over. At the time, it progressed into a Twitch channel. So I went from YouTube then to Twitch streaming. So I needed all my stuff for that as well. And little did I realize after a certain amount of time, I would start to enjoy this designing thing way more than all of the Call of Duty I was playing. So there was a point in my journey where I started to flip and I started to, instead of make YouTube content, I just really loved designing things for my own stuff and for other people in the community as well. And so from there, being a designer in the esports, sort of the gaming YouTube community, I eventually it was just so random. It really was. Just on Twitter, one day I found some accounts who do this thing called logo design.
Right.
And I was like, oh, what is this thing called logo design? Like they make a little badge for companies. And I was like, what is this thing? But it looked so freaking cool. And I just felt pulled to do it. So I researched it, I had a look into it. And then eventually I just started practicing. I thought this is something I can get into, that it looks amazing. It seems fun. And literally over the course of about a year and a half, because I didn't know anything about freelancing or business or getting clients. All I knew was I had to get better. So I made up like 100 pretend companies, rebranded them all as if they were a client. And now they're all on my wall just here. And I call it my sketch wall, literally covering the whole freaking thing. And yeah, as time went on, I started learning about, okay, this logo thing, how can I really have an impact with it? Because there's one thing just designing a cool logo, and then there was this whole idea of the brand strategy behind it, business and systems and sales, and my head just started exploding. And I've really tried to integrate this skill for graphic design, and now I'm using it to help experts and coaches, specifically people with info products and different programs like that, to stand out, level up their brand presence. And it's been an absolutely incredible journey so far.
No, that's absolutely awesome, especially at your age as well, where I suppose you're still technically a teenager. If you're
Yeah, I am.
if you're at 19, you could be doing so much more, breaking lockdown, illegally raving
Yeah,
around, but you're putting your skills to great use. One question, I suppose, let me kick off with that before we go into branding. There's a lot of people, a lot of young people that obviously are trying to build businesses. They're trying to kind of connect with clients online, trying to pitch people, but they always have this confidence issue that they're not going to be taken seriously because they're young,
mhm.
I suppose. Have you come across any such issues? And if so, how have you, I suppose, dealt with it?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question because, yeah, the short answer is absolutely. Because I was about in the timeline around 16 when I got and stumbled on this logo thing. And so when I came over to Instagram, I made like a conscious choice for some reason in my head that Twitter was like the unprofessional gaming community and Instagram was like where all the big dogs were. So I said, all right, I'm going to go to Instagram and give it a go. And I was 16. So it was a case of I started putting out all of those practice projects on my wall and just showing people, okay, I'm good at design, like I'm getting better, I can show what I do. And then there was a time when I started getting on camera, and obviously, I don't have the most old looking face anyway, but 3 years ago,
Oh, you look good.
yeah, I always say in the future when I'm 40, it's gonna help me. But now it's yeah, when I was 16, 3 years ago, it was even worse. Like you would look at me and know that I'm really young. Plus, I was skinny as hell, had braces. It was just a nightmare. But what I found was the number one thing that trumps that really, because anyone can look at me and be like, okay, he's young. But what I found that trumped it was when I started to show my face on camera to the level that I really delivered value and I proved I know what the hell I'm talking about within branding and I can walk through client projects, like the little ones I had at the time, to the ability I could do that and be, I guess the word is sort of sophisticated and
Mm, mature, I suppose, to a certain degree.
yeah, that's the word, exactly the word. To the ability I could be, while my face wasn't mature in my language and the way I taught about this topic.
Mhm.
That really, really helped. And there's a specific story that was proof that this works. And so just the quick runaround of it was I hadn't had many clients on Instagram. And I think it was a big problem with age and just people taking me seriously. I started getting on camera and I decided to do daily value bombs. I was like, okay, I had like a tiny whiteboard. Now I've got big ones in this room and my other room. I was like, let me do a daily lesson and we'll see what happens. And there was a point, just a total random day, nothing special. Someone had messaged me and they said, hey, I've actually been watching all your content. I was like, oh, have you? And I know a company who's looking for a designer and I think you should message him. You seem like you know what you're doing. And so I went over to the account and it was called Infinite Prosperity. And they had about, 50, 60,000 followers at the time. And as a kid, I was like, oh, damn, this is a pretty big business. And so after I'm an R in, I just messaged them and be like, okay, I'd like to put my name forwards. They said, have you got a portfolio? No, just look at my Instagram page. And then literally a couple of days later, to my surprise, we'd like to take you on. Let's get on a call. We'll have a trial week and we'll take you on as the full-time designer. So literally went from overnight nothing to they paid about $1,000 a month, which was just obviously insane for me at that age. Um, and that was the evidence for me. Whereas like it doesn't matter that I'm 16 and I
Mm.
look like a baby and I
You're
have
probably
braces.
still going to school or something, or college, or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 100%. So now I'm obviously out of it, but at the time I was still, I think when I was 16, I was at secondary school and we were doing, like GCSEs and all of that. And then soon I would go to college, only for 1 out of the 2 years. And that's a story for maybe later on in this
Okay.
podcast. No, yeah, that story was the proof to me that if I could be mature with my content and prove that I'm skillful, it's pretty hard for people to argue that age is a factor, I think.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you brought content up. I'm having a tough time convincing people in their 40s to produce content. And not
Oh,
everyone understands the value, but if they hear it from someone younger, maybe that would be useful. Now, coming to the value bombs, right? Branding. Why does it matter? I'm an expert. My resume
yeah.
says I'm an expert. My LinkedIn says I'm an expert. Why do you need to care about branding? It's just pictures and stuff, right?
Great point. Yeah, a lot of people say the exact same thing, and it is to no one's fault, because most of the time, you don't know what you don't know. So what I say to that is, yeah, it's just pictures and it's just words and colors and things, but when you put those pictures and those colors and those words and those fonts into a certain pattern and a certain formula that makes it look professional and high end, I think the biggest thing is it just influences that first impression. And that's what I found with my own stuff. At the same time as I was putting out content, I was releasing, quote graphics and videos, and leveling up the idea of, okay, when someone hits my Instagram page, I need them to be like, okay, this is a trusted place where I know I'm going to learn something good.
Mhm.
And so that was obviously for me a while ago, but for now, with experts and coaches, there's an abundance of coaches. It's, no
Yeah.
one can argue that anymore. There's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So when someone hits your page and you're a coach and you have an amazing product, why not leverage the way your business looks? So when they see it, they think, wow, this is something I can trust. They have their shit together. Sorry if I'm not
No,
allowed to
you can swear. You can say shit as many
swear.
times as you want.
Perfect. That's my biggest. There's 100 different ones, but I think the biggest one is it reassures your clients as well. If you've got things together, it shows that you care about how you look, how you're being presented. And two, a big thing that, everyone who says branding doesn't matter, I always think, no need to be so selfish about this branding thing. It's not for you.
Yeah.
It's not just for you, it's for your customers. It's to help them feel more trusting. It's to help them feel more included. You can use branding to create a movement, just like Grant's 10x, Russell Brunson's funnel hacking,
Hmm.
you know? So it's nothing to be selfish about. It's actually you're using branding as a tool to help attract the right people in. You design in certain ways to show certain people a way that aren't right and to bring in correct people. So that's what I would say is, one, your service is amazing. So why would you not want your business to look amazing? And two,
Hmm.
it's for your people. It's really not just for you to
Hmm.
have like your favorite color and your favorite font and some bad random logo. It's
Right.
it's really a tool, and those would be the first things that I would say.
Okay, no, that's awesome, and that makes perfect sense that this is not just about you; it's about kind of serving your customers as well, I suppose. And you mentioned Grant Cardone and Russell Brunson have amazing brands around what they have built, and they've built communities around it, which are self-supporting, I suppose. Now, let's talk about results because obviously people understand numbers. Talk us through a
Yes.
project that you've kind of worked on where someone might have been doing okay, and then you came, did some magic. What did you do? And how did the numbers improve for them?
Very good question. Yeah, so metrics is one of those things with branding where most of the time the metrics are intangible, but if applied in the right places in certain touch points, it can influence the ROI, the metrics 100%. So one example, actually very recently, my client has been testing, he's in the fitness coaching niche. So he's been testing his different coaching programs, testing out different price points, length of his program. And so before we worked together, he didn't really have a brand as such. It was just sort of like his name, fitness coach. So when we started working together in January, first of all, we gave his company, an actual brand, something inclusive. And now it's over merch. So again, the whole idea of for your customers, getting inclusive. Metrics wise, very recently, he sells a £99 fitness program. It's like a 5-week fat loss. I redesigned his funnel, and this so far is almost at 9K. And he's been able
Wow.
to really connect from a £99 program. Yeah, even though I log into the click funnels every day, and I'm like, wow, this is doing
awesome.
incredible.
Right, no, that's brilliant, brilliant. So, I mean, when you are looking at building somebody's brand out, what do you actually look at? You know, what are the key elements of an effective and a powerful brand?
Yeah, I love those words as well. You know, it does have to be powerful, and I always use it has to shine. I don't have my shirt on, but I have a word. It says shine because that's my thing. And whenever I work with an expert or a coach or a business, we are starting at the foundations. Now, most people think when they hear the word branding, logo.
Hmm.
So I want you to imagine a freaking pyramid. Like the logo is just a little bit at the top, and it's definitely not necessary to start with, which might be some shock to people coming
Hmm.
from a designer. So the number one thing that I come in and focus on when I start working with people is, okay, the foundations. What does that mean? That means the customer. So a very intense process on figuring out the customer, because again, branding is for your customer. There's no other reason other than the movement you're building, the business you're growing, which all involves attracting more customers or improving your relationship with the current ones. So the customer, your brand story. If I design something, I need to know, okay, what does it need to reflect? What values? Where's your perfect customer in their journey? So I can design things in a certain way that speaks to these people at that time. I'm also thinking about the personality. You know, a lot of the times people's branding is just so random. They just go to Fiverr and they get a design done. And I say you can do it and you can get design done, or you can get design done that shines. That actually speaks some values and tells a story. So there's a very intense process around the values of a brand, the story behind it, the positioning they want to do. Obviously, the messaging as well has a big influence on all of that stuff as well. So, pretty much once I know all of that stuff, the concrete foundations, then we start translating it into design. So, anything I create, again, as I reiterated a few times, is designing for their customers. So it speaks to them. And also, an exciting part of it is most people, if they have gone to Fiverr previously, they might have had a bad experience.
Yeah,
I
I think
can't speak for
most people have, yeah.
most people. I can't speak for everyone, but I'm just saying most people have. And it's because there's no real strategy or thought behind it. And so an exciting part of the process is you have the vision inside of what you want your brand to be, like where you want to take it. Just like Grant Cardone's 10x, you want to build the movement, you want to have your own identity. So part of the process is pulling that out of your brain. And it's a very fun process where we actually take all those words, like you'll say like modern or professional.
Hmm.
What does that mean to anyone?
Nothing.
So basically, my job is to unpack those, and
Mhm.
we'll really look at what does that mean? What does that look like? And we'll answer every single question and value and the way you describe your dream brand through the lens of the foundation. And by the end of the process, 100% of the projects I've had have been, okay, now you've got your dream brand that you've always wanted, but you've just been never able to quite get. And it's also strategic. So
Mhm.
it all starts with those foundations. I use the analogy, when you're building a house, you don't start with the sofas.
Sure.
You lay down the concrete, you
Right.
set the bricks in place, and that's the way it should be done. A lot of people, they just hand a questionnaire over that says, what do you want it
Yeah.
to look like?
No.
Then it's a guessing game for both parties.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, obviously, what you're talking about sounds like quite labor intensive, like a lot of work. You know, how long does it take to kind of get all of this online, I suppose?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So through refining the process, and I don't know how other people work, but in terms of putting together a new standing out unique identity and then actually redesigning that across every single touch point in a business, I've locked it down to about 3 to 4 weeks. And for some people, that's a crazy amount of time. But I always say, if you went to Fiverr, it would take a week to get your stuff done.
That's
Then
true.
you'd be scratching your eyes out for the next 2 weeks with changes.
Yeah.
And it'd be the most stressful, painful process of like, freaking, I want the changes done. It doesn't look right. And so not only is it 100% so far, fingers crossed, effective process, but look, this is for a timeless brand. And there's a big focus on the future, for anyone who is focused on redesigning their brand, please look into the future of what it will become. Do you want to have your own movement? Do you want to start in-person events? Do you want your brand on a freaking skyscraper like Salesforce?
Sure.
And it then becomes that 3 to 4 weeks, but it's really for the lifetime of your brand. And that's a really exciting thing to present clients and to get them thinking about too.
And if there's one thing that people could start working on themselves right now to, I suppose, get their brand in the right direction, what would that one thing be for you?
That's a great question. I would say, again, it all starts with a foundation. So I would even say, look, if right now the branding is like blowing your mind up and you're confused, don't worry about that just yet. I would say the number one thing anyone should be starting on, new or existing, is just the people you're serving. And so obviously I'll give an actionable step on the design part in a second, but even if you never worry about a logo again, your ability to understand your clients better than they know themselves, again, in the context of how you help them, that's so, so important. As soon as I figured out who I love serving and who I can really help, it changes the way I speak in my content. It changes the people I attract and who I say yes to and who I say no to. And I know a lot of people, there's some confusion. Maybe it's very broad and they're just like, yeah, I help everyone. When really there's quite a nice group of people that you would really have some great results on. And so that would be my number one. In terms of the actual design, if you want to have some actionable steps for that, most of the time, just go to Canva, see how it's been effectively done before, and model that. Which is, again, might seem like ludicrous advice coming from me because, I don't use Canva. But one of the things most people do is like they'll get something like Canva or Photoshop and they'll try and do it themselves, but they're not a designer.
No.
Which is fine. But as we know with Russell Brunson, with anyone in business, modeling gets you the best success the fastest. And with design, is proven. If you put this here, and have it look this way, it will look good. That's just a design thing. So right now with content, don't worry about making it yourself. You go to Canva and you just start there and you build on top of it. I think that's the easiest place for people to start because most people are literally ripping their hair out trying to get things done. It's relatively simple to get going.
And
I would
once
say,
they're done, I suppose, ripping their hair out, they should find someone like you to kind of take that pressure off them. Now, we're very quickly running out of time. For someone who's watching this and they want to find out more about what you do or connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
Well, is this going on Facebook? I guess
It's going
you
on
can.
Facebook and LinkedIn. So, if you've got a profile or a website that you want to give a shout out to.
Yeah. I would say literally hit me up on my Facebook account because one thing I offer everyone is just a brand audit. Literally, I'm accountable to my mindset coach this year. Is like, if I can just help people get moving. So that's one place. My Facebook page, which is just my name, Joshua Gibbons, and definitely hit me up there, or my Instagram. I'll send you the app afterwards. But yeah, it's I think my obligation to stop people ripping their hair out.
No, that's awesome. On that note, Joshua Gibbons, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you for giving me this bit to answer some questions.